cool graphics and
With
stuff.
cool graphics.
Yeah.
And
With
like,
lasers.
Laser beams. That's nice.
Laser beams.
Yeah, there you go. A lot of air quotes.
Anyway,
set up.
Yep.
Welcome to the podcast. I am your host, as always, Science Hater. I'm with me, my friend, great Brian. Brian, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm with Ryan. Obviously, he owns the podcast. He owns the gym.
He owns the podcast.
He owns the camera,
I always like how you
obviously.
own the podcast.
You own the podcast.
on the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
really.
we always got to start a little weird,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And special guest today, PT, in-house PT,
In-house PT.
great PT,
Thanks, man.
Eric. What's up, Eric? How you
Hi.
doing?
Good.
Yeah,
Yep. Happy to be here.
we're happy you're
Just
here.
got done
'cause-
helping all of the members today. Not all.
because
Every
50%.
single one of them.
I didn't hurt all of them.
No.
you know,
Cleaning up
it's,
the mess.
It's nice to have someone with a lot of knowledge about like the healthcare aspect of training, because usually about 1/3 of individuals who are on the podcast don't really know much.
Oh, yeah. That's how that. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
That's why I'm here.
Just when you're talking.
Yeah.
That's
so,
okay.
we're going to talk a lot about the, rehab, prehab stuff. And, I mean, a great place to start would be, I know Ryan's been trying to push a warm-up. And a lot of people just don't want to do it. Like,
Before we go on to that,
What?
The warm up of the podcast. You want to give a brief introduction?
Sure. Yep.
Great job, host.
Yeah. So, I'm Eric Sokolowski. I graduated CCSU with a bachelor's in exercise science, and I went on to get my doctorate in physical therapy from UHeart in 2015. And let's see, I have competed in powerlifting, and I'm finally going to do another meet coming up.
Here.
In May.
Right there.
I have my CSCS, which I got a couple weeks ago. It's long overdue. And I am going to sit for my Certified Manual Physical Therapist.
What's the acronym
It's
to
like
that?
CMPT.
Real quick.
CMPT.
It's a lot
Yep.
easier than I thought it was going to be for you.
In June. So,
It's CNN.
yep.
What are some of your best numbers?
All right. So, my best squat is 475. I've benched 325 and deadlifted 535.
Okay.
So,
And you're a
48, right?
like in the 150s. Yeah, 150s. So I'm not going to cut for this competition because I'm sick of
that.
cutting. Yeah, exactly.
You look like a Taylor.
Oh.
Yeah, no way.
Secret dark horse.
Yep. So yeah, that's me. And I've been treating here 1 day a week since September, and it's been great. So I enjoy it.
Is there like a common injury that you're treating right now that like everyone has?
Yeah, so in powerlifting, there tends to be certain areas of your body that get stressed
Yeah.
more so than others. Low back is a big one. Shoulders, rotator cuff or biceps tendinopathies you see a lot. Overuse injuries to your hip as well. So those are some of the biggies that I see.
And is there, because I know a lot of people, or we just blame our QL for our low back stuff.
Yeah.
How accurate is that?
So I think the QL could probably get fired up. It's a major stabilizer of your low back. So if you tweak your low back, or if you just overdo it, your QL will probably tighten as a protective, guarding response. So yeah, your QL is probably tight, but that's probably not why, you're having issues. So.
Is there a way you could like screen for that? Like, because I know a lot of people say they have QL issues, right?
Yep.
So how do you get to sort of the source of the pain?
So I'll do movement screens,
Yeah.
for people. So, I'm not always necessarily looking at is a muscle, the cause of your pain, because usually it's, the result of something. So when I do a screen for someone, I'm looking at all the possible movements and motions and ranges and that someone, would be getting into for the sport. So for example, I'll do a squat screen. So I'll screen the ankles, I'll screen their thoracic spine, their hips, even their shoulders to see if they can get into a good bar position. So, can the joint get into the range of motion is what I'm looking at. and then if it can, is it painful? Also, if they can't, is it painful? And then from there, I'll kind of go into some specifics. So that's kind of how I narrow down to an area. So yeah, like your QL might be tight, but it could be because your squatting is crappy because your ankles can't dorsiflex and you can't get into a good position. So I try not to pigeonhole. This is the muscle, and you just got to stretch it and you'll be fine, type deal. So I try to get to the root of the problem.
And how would you? So I'm assuming you guys work together and you
A lot.
talk about
Yep.
about sort of which athletes sort of have which issues. That like just programming and how much.
So, well, I think it kind of depends on the extent of the issue. If it's truly a PT issue, that's out of my range. I'm not dealing with it, and that's where Eric will really take over. If it's more something that I can handle, he'll give me recommendations. Say, do this, do this, do this. He'll also tell whoever the client is, be like, okay, you need to work on this, this, and this. And more often than not, we can continue with regular training. There's really only a few people that you've really had to take their training as more of a PT than my job as a strength coach. Most of it's been like, okay, make this small correction, put this into your warm up, like you started to say with the warm ups.
Yeah.
That a lot of people don't want to do anyway. And then just keep going. Where we've only had a few that it's been like, okay, we need to really step back, relearn a lot, and that's where you've taken over more of that work.
So there's a certain point that you're all like, hey, maybe we should step away from powerlifting, or is
Yeah.
it just okay?
Yep. And that's usually when their day-to-day life is affected, or
It's a
say
good
they, or they can't squat 50%, or it'll be pretty obvious to me.
Oh, okay.
Or there'll be some red flag that when I'm doing an actual medical screen, I'm like, hey, listen, this is not safe for you to do. And that's where I'll either take over or even just refer them out to a medical doctor. So, which I haven't had to do here yet. A couple close calls, but yeah, not yet. We've been pretty good.
I basically don't like necks and nerve issues. If necks and nerve issues, that's you.
Yep.
I don't even want to deal with it.
Just the words. Is
I don't
kind
even
of
want to
fucking.
think about it. Well, that's
It gets scary at that
That's
point.
not my
Yeah.
training. It's not something I should be dealing with anyway. And yes, I can adjust my programming to possibly offset some issues. But if you're having true nerve issues or having neck issues, that's not my world.
Yeah.
As a strength coach, I don't want to deal with your neck if it's jacked up. That makes me nervous.
Yeah.
So
And that should make the person nervous too, to the point where they should seek out
right.
some
So
attention.
that's why it's great having Eric here, that we can say, okay, you're way out of my playing field, but this is what he does.
Yeah.
Also, just a bunch of stuff in your neck that just all the major vessels that go to your brain are there.
Yeah.
All your nerve
Yeah,
endings come out of there.
I don't want to touch it.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Your brain somewhere up there.
Yeah, somewhere in the neck is where the brain
Yeah.
is located.
Somewhere
There's a
up
lot going on.
in this
We're a
general
powerlifting
area.
Gym, there's not a whole lot of that. Time.
Yeah.
So preventing neck pain, so I just shrugs every day.
Yeah.
Get those traps super strong,
Yeah,
so my
yeah.
neck has no place to move.
Right.
Yeah.
That sounds like
My
a
neck
good
hurts.
plan.
Do shrugs immediately.
Exactly.
I prescribe that to everyone.
Yeah, that's
so.
first thing is shrugs, and then from there we move on.
But okay. Going
But okay.
back on track. But what should I do as an athlete, right, to prevent to get into a point where I have to come to you and be like, hey,
Do you want to go back to
Fucked
that
up.
warm-up idea that
we can.
That's
That'd
where
be
I think
great.
we were headed
Yeah.
back to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if you're feeling good and you don't have a lot of aches and pains, you're going about your regular training, I don't think someone needs to do much of a warm up at all. Maybe walk and then get under the bar, and start squatting. That's probably the best warm up, say, for squats. I start to give people different things to do when, maybe they're stiff from training and they can't get into a good position. If we're trying to work on a specific aspect of their lift, so, one thing might be for squatting, if you can't get into a good thoracic position, if you tend to round over, and we determine that's the root of the issue, we'll throw in some, thoracic mobility or, stability training in there. But I think So with like low back too, that's a big one. You know, I've given a lot of people the McGill Big Three, shown to have like a little bit of a protective effects on your back for some core stability and activation. So I was like, if you have back pain, just try these. But aside from that, you know, you can scale it based off of how you feel. So if you feel good, like I said, just get under the bar. So, and then we can go from there.
Something like the McGill 3, do you feel like there's a certain time that it's best? Do you feel like you have to have it in the warm-up, you have to have it throughout your workout, you have to have it on days off? Is there any like specific timing for it?
So that has kind of a twofold use, those exercises. So the first is that they have a pain relieving effect because they're isometrics. And you know, if someone has a lot of pain and, you know, their day-to-day activities suck, then I'll have them do it daily or a couple times a day for that exact reason. And they also can help improve your core muscle activation for right before you lift, so I'll put it in the warm-up. So I guess it depends. You know, if someone feels a little wonky in their back, like try a couple sets before you warm up. But if someone's rehabbing, then I'll probably have them do it a couple times a day.
Is there a reason why you powerlift in particular? Because I know a lot of PTs I've had experience with, they're all like really into CrossFit and Olympic lifting. And I was just like,
That's a direct zap.
So it's interesting to actually talk to a PT that's not into like, you know, overhead squats. I mean, I'm sure you're a fan of them, but just not doing them all the time.
I mean, I got into powerlifting before I got into PT.
Okay.
So I guess that probably answers that question. But, you know, I've continued with it just because I love the sport. It's simple, you know, to learn and hard to master. And it's kind of like a lifelong progression. And, you know, a lot of the principles go back to just like basic human movement.
I would say it relates back to your job, basically.
Yeah,
like
so it goes back to my job. You know, I teach people how to deadlift like all day, you know, with a kettlebell. Like if they have back pain, it's like a little old lady or something like that, which is not all I see in the clinic. But a lot of people could benefit from learning how to do these movements, and you know, CrossFit. So enough said. Here's to pissing people off.
There you go.
No,
We do that a lot.
no, it's fine.
No, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
It's totally not that
You know, I wouldn't want to intentionally get weaker.
There you
Doing
go.
CrossFit. Like, why would I want to
0 to
do that?
1,000 immediately.
Yeah. Why would I want to do that? So,
Do you have, I mean, in here, obviously, you have predominantly powerlifters, but in your clinic, do you find you have a lot of athletes? Do you find you have
a lot of high school athletes, lacrosse, baseball, football, a couple soccer players. We have a couple CrossFit gyms near us, so I do see CrossFit athletes. And then just
Gen Pop?
just general population.
Do you find it, I mean, this is kind of tough to answer across the board, but do you find it's easier to work with Gen Pop or specific athletes? Like, there's certain sports that's like super hard to assess because of overuse of certain something? Or?
You know, definitely when you get into team sports, you know, you coach athletes in team sports, it gets way more complex.
Yeah.
You know, because then you have to worry about speed, agility, sports skill. So there's a lot, you know, cardiovascular conditioning. There's a lot more that goes into it, and the movement patterns are way more complex. You know, you're not just going up and down like this. You have to twist and do all kinds
exactly how
of
we
fancy
all
footwork
squat,
things.
too.
Yeah, straight up and down. So it gets a lot more complicated.
Is there one sport in particular that stands out? I mean, I guess something like soccer, there's so much like movement in general.
Baseball,
Baseball's hard.
yeah, baseball's a tough one.
And the same thing is,
Pitchers
do you
in
think
particular.
it's easier to address something like baseball because you know the movements ahead of time compared to like
Or does the
football or
movements-
soccer? You might have like
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
The reason I say baseball's harder is just being a pitcher, so
Yeah.
like
Bias.
I guess I'm pretty biased here, but throwing a baseball is the fastest motion you can do in sports. Like I forget what the actual velocity is of the arm. It's something outrageous, and just the amount of force that you're putting through your body at that point is crazy. And I was actually talking to one of our athletes earlier today. I said, when I hurt my elbow, I blew out my elbow and pitched for 4 more years with no ulnar collateral ligament. But what I did was I dropped my my release position to take the pressure off my elbow, which is what tore up my shoulder. So
Yeah.
a small change of position when throwing a ball 90 miles per hour can have a huge impact on something else, where the lack of, and not the lack of speed, because I mean, other sports are still happening very fast, but I mean, like if someone's got a rotational issue where I can give them a pal-off press, it's nice and slow, but you go to swing a bat or throw a ball and it's like that.
It's so violent of a movement.
It's so fast, it changes things. And yes, I understand, like when football, you might get tackled and things happen, but
Yeah.
we can't
So you're like
do anything there.
more of like the more violent a movement, or the more like, I guess, force you put it. I always thought
The
about
more
like,
dynamic.
more
is a
dynamic.
good word for
Because
it.
comparably, like, do you end up seeing? I feel like there's could be totally wrong, but I feel like there's more injuries in powerlifting than in weightlifting, as far as like. You would think there'd be more in weightlifting because it's so much violent of a movement.
Yeah.
that You would,
I think there's more catastrophic injuries in weightlifting.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, more
Often you
more
see, like-
overuse injuries.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Weightlifting, you see like dislocated shoulders, elbows, torn rotator cuffs.
Right.
And I'm not saying that these are common things, like, but yeah, like a lot of powerlifters here, it's usually like some kind of tendinopathy that you're seeing because it's
Just repeatedly.
you're
running
squatting
to the ground.
all
Yep.
the time.
Yes.
benching all the time. But
I think the injury rates are pretty similar.
Yeah.
yeah, they're both
So,
very.
I mean, I guess
low.
I'm biased 'cause of
actually,
all-
like, I mean, there's stats out that show that weightlifting and powerlifting, the injury rates per 1,000 are very low compared to other sports.
Yeah.
Like, there's some of the lowest injury rates you can find. I just think it's a lot of like, I'm banged up, I'm sore.
Yeah.
And because I don't have an off season because you're constantly lifting, you need to get worked on.
Yeah.
Where like for me for baseball, when I took a break to play basketball or just took the winter off, I gave my arm a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
Powerlifters don't take a break.
Yep.
Now, how
Never.
does
Maybe
knowing
they should.
the patients at like sport adjust like your level of care? Not level, but like sort of plan for care, right? If
Like
versus
knowing
yeah,
that
so
they
knowing
have to.
like if
Yeah.
a weightlifter came in versus a football player versus a powerlifter, right? How does that sort of come into your plan of action when you're treating an individual?
So you have to look at the demands of the sport.
Okay.
From an energy system standpoint and from a movement standpoint. So most of the time in the beginning, the rehab's going to be, say, relatively similar. Say if someone comes in with, a jumper's knee in 3 different sports. Powerlifting, you can still see it. And then soccer, and then see what's something way different. Well, let's just use those 2.
Okay.
So, one of them has very different demands than the other. So you can look at, obviously you have to squat in powerlifting. So, you're not doing quick movements. In soccer you might be doing, higher repetitions. You might be working in different energy systems other than the, ATP system. So there's things that come into play later on, in the return to sport phase, more so than in the beginning. So I guess it affects the plan of action in that way later on.
Okay.
I feel like it would also be not easier to address someone like a powerlifter because, I mean, in most people's plans, should be directly working on those things. As like how hard is it to keep like a soccer player, football player up to date with like repeating the exercises that you give them on their own?
Tougher than here. I
Yeah.
feel like honestly here, the lifters are great because they're super motivated. They
We
all
have
want to get
everything in front of
stronger.
us.
If you want to be motivated, go to Team GPT.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, it's
I was
true.
wondering when that was coming.
back.
That's
It's,
good. That's
it's
good.
true though. So I think a lifter can see it a little bit more in front of their face, where it's
Yeah.
like if you do this and this, your squat will get better. Whereas if you say are trying to rehab like a team sport athlete, and you're like, hey, if you like work on these split squats,
One faction of one thing that might help you.
yeah, and it definitely could probably help them, say, like doing PT or this corrective exercise, but it's just like, no, I just want to get out on the field.
Yeah.
So it's more of a challenge in team sports.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I imagine the correlation to like explaining why this one exercise will affect
Yeah,
your
you-
first step compared
Yep.
to like
You have to relate it back to their sport, and oftentimes they don't want to hear it. Well, I shouldn't say that.
They don't
More
wanna
often than here.
Yeah.
More often than here. So,
I got just more movement to deal with.
Yeah.
So with powerlifting, it's squat, bench, dead, and some
So
assisted
simple
stuff,
of a
but,
thing to-
like, in soccer, there's 9,000 different angles that they can just, when you make a cut,
Yep.
every cut's not the same, so you can't train this single split squat. How is that going to affect everything I do? It's like, well, it's going to do a lot of different things, but we might not be able to help every single one of them.
Yeah, like this bird dog is going to make you score 10 more goals every day. It's kind of tough to.
But as a trainer, how important is it to, because in powerlifting, all the movements are sort of stagnant in the sense that we're just on a platform and they go up and down, or you're just pressing. Like, how important, or do you incorporate movements that like laterally versus like
Great
opposites?
question.
Yeah,
Outside
like,
sagittal.
is that
So
important?
I think a lot of lifters could benefit from work outside of the sagittal plane. So
Yeah.
sagittal would just be straight up and down, pressing up and down, doing a chin up, and that can lead to overuse injuries a lot more frequently by working only in that one plane. So, including frontal plane, transverse plane, which is like side to side or twisting type activities, as long as they're not impeding with the recovery of the athlete, I think it makes for an awesome recovery workout or accessory workout. An example would be lifters with low back pain. They tend to be unilateral, and they tend to happen when like they're squatting or deadlifting. So, getting people to do like a suitcase carry. I prescribe that a lot here to work on core endurance, frontal plane stability, just get them doing something different. Tends to be pretty effective.
Do you think, outside of recovery, that there's a benefit strength-wise or ability to produce force for specifically a powerlifter in training? Do you think there's like benefit to minus rehab? Do you think like training in different planes and doing more rotations and twists, do you think that benefits a strength athlete specifically?
Probably not too much unless you have a ton of imbalances. So outside of rehab, I would say it's really not that important, but maybe for symmetry and balance, like if someone tends to be like, weaker on one side, maybe they twist coming up squatting. Right. So, if someone was like a healthy person, they're just getting stronger, they have no issues, might include one or two movements, but I wouldn't expect it to directly improve their squat or deadlifts. But I think it's important to keep in their training, but I don't think like for,
Specific.
your 1 rep max, I don't think it's going to do much.
Yeah, I mean, we program a lot of single leg work, a lot of back work, a lot of dumbbell work, a lot of things like that probably don't have a huge carryover to the main lifts. We were talking about this the other day, like if we were more specific with the lifts, probably would get bigger carryover faster,
Right.
but
It's got to impact their recovery.
what's the benefit of recovery? So like I said, we generally do single leg work on both lower body days. We do a lot of back work, we do a lot of single arm pressing work, we do a lot of things like that because everyone you need it.
Yeah.
Because you can't just squat the whole time.
You can.
So you can,
But you
but
die.
and a lot of people do it, and it does work. But I just think that for just staying in the sport longer and staying healthier, and it sounds crazy, like we're talking like, oh, look at all the members that are going to the PT, but we have very few that, like I said, that are having major issues, and everyone's still competing, and it's the longer you can stay at this by being healthy, the better you're going to be. It's a long race, and yeah, we could squat every day, low bar, competition style, and probably hit PRs faster, and probably have to deal with more shoulder, elbow, low back, knee, hip issues because we're just doing that. Then on the days where like our fourth day, a lot of times we don't do a squat pattern, we do like a rear foot elevated or both foot elevated split squat, where we do something like that and get out of the squat pattern that we're in all the time. We do one leg RDL. Like basically everyone here hates me because we do one leg RDLs. Like everyone does them because everyone sucks at them.
Yeah.
And it's good to if you're bad at it, I think you need to get good at it. It's better than just loading up the deadlift again. So.
You were pretty bad at it.
I'm
when
terrible.
Eric was-
So
Just saying.
I'm terrible.
Again, like I don't think the fact that you getting better to one leg
I'm
RDL is
not
going
good
to
at
add
it
50
either.
pounds to your deadlift, but it's going to.
But what if it does?
I mean, it might, but I think it's going to keep you healthier and you've been
It's been better.
you've been
Sort of.
not in pain for
Yeah. Yeah, I've been in less pain.
quite a
good.
while, and you've been
Congratulations.
And all your lifts are up right now.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
is it hurting you the fact that we're doing all this work? I mean, you benched a PR the other night. You squatted a PR recently. You're going to deadlift a PR in the next 2 weeks probably.
Possibly.
We're going to go for it at least.
Understood.
It seems to be working.
Yeah.
And also those movements, I think, if you're bad at them, that's one thing, but it also might shed light on other issues that you might have. You're like, wow,
Yeah.
this doesn't look as right as it should. Let's try something else and see if that works.
Yeah.
Because maybe you're not stable enough, or you just can't do the movement correctly, right? And it's like, oh, so now we know where an issue is that we need to address. I think that's also very important. Why we should train more than one plane at a time.
All the planes.
All the planes.
Train in the planes.
Airplanes.
That's something we can run with. Yeah. Train the planes. Anyway.
Train the planes.
Yeah, train the planes.
That could be a T-shirt
Yeah. That's,
that you can find.
that we could.
TNT.com.
Oh.
Just kidding. We don't sell T-shirts.
I was like, you can find that on your own. Just
Yeah.
go ahead. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think another thing that can help a lot of lifters would be focusing on recovery a little bit more. You know,
That was our
also
next question. That's where
to
the-
decrease injury rates, to decrease your risk.
A lot.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that if someone, you know, is trying to prevent injury, that I'll try to get them to do. You know, we might include some recovery workouts in different planes. You know, volume and load management is by far the most important thing. And, you know, Ryan and I talk about this all the time. It ends up being an issue when someone gets a little tweak, they get hurt, they don't tell Ryan, and then some amount of work that they would normally be able to recover from and get stronger from is now beyond their maximum capacity, and then they get worse.
Yeah.
And then it kind of snowballs, and then all of a sudden they're hurt. So, you know, managing volume and load and frequency and all that stuff that's injury prevention like 101. So if something is, go ahead.
And the problem with what you just said too is they feel that tweak, and they can generally still hit a PR or still
Sure.
be strong for a while. So it's not like that happens and then they're 20% weaker tomorrow. And if they were, they would come and say, hey, something's wrong right now.
Yeah.
They can make it for 6, 7, 10, 12, 15 weeks. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, this ache is starting to bother me. And all of a sudden their numbers are starting to slide down. They're like, oh yeah, by the way,
Life is terrible.
this has been bothering me for like 4 months.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like how Eric just said, now we're at the point though we didn't change any of the load over the last 4 months, and now what could have taken a week to recover from
Takes months.
takes months.
And
now,
that gets to the point, like how. I mean, it's hard to determine like your athlete's personality and what they're going to say to you, but like, what's a good recommendation that you get out to like? Is it any level of pain?
If it hurts, tell me,
There you go. That's fantastic.
And then he'll decide.
and then I'll decide if you should talk to Eric or not. I mean, I get it. Like I said, I pitched for 4 years with no ulnar collateral ligament. Like it's not smart.
Yeah.
I get it. I think most of us in the sport are going to do some pretty dumb shit
Been there.
to stay in the sport.
Still there?
But if you feel something today, you're like, man, that hurts. That doesn't feel right. Say something to me. We can make it like Eric said, a load and a volume adjustment immediately. Even in that same day, we can make an adjustment and exercise for the day. See if we can get you feeling better within a day or two. And if not, then that's where Eric comes in, and we can try to get it fixed quickly. Where when you wait 4 months to tell me, oh yeah, by the way, my shoulder's been cranky this whole time. It's like,
Yeah. I think I would rather someone tell me too many things, like my pinky hurts. Like, all right, that's fine, tell me. But like, if it's like, oh, my hand hurts, like, oh, my forearm. Like, if it gets to that point, you could prevent that. That's
yeah, like what Eric said before, like if it's affecting anything you're doing on a daily basis, you need to say something immediately.
Yeah.
That's when I got my surgery, was when I couldn't lift stuff off a top shelf anymore.
it's a good measure.
It's pretty bad.
Like I
Yeah.
couldn't reach the top shelf because my shoulder would pop out. Oh, I need surgery. Finally got it taken care of. Like my daily life was affected. Like I said, if it takes you a little bit longer to warm up for bench press, maybe it's not the end of the world.
Right.
But if your bench press is to the point where every rep you're like, man, my shoulder hurts. Man, this doesn't feel good. You need to say something. And like I said, maybe we can fix you in a week or a day. If it's not
Yeah.
that bad, then
Maybe you just go from benching 4 times a week to 3. You know, it could be a simple fix in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's when it goes on and on and on that like things break down, and then it becomes a major thing.
And then you start to make adjustments, and all of a sudden, like, you know, that little strain becomes a complete shift in your squat, and now
Yep.
that shift in the squat is now straining something else, and then the load is different, and all of a sudden you've got 6 things going on. It's like, all right, so we're gonna go back to 20%
Yep.
and work our way back up, and we're gonna do tempo squats, and no one wants to do that. No one wants to do
No one wants tempo
25%
squats.
tempo squats.
That's why everyone hates me.
Yeah.
But
That's why that goes to you.
but we get to that point. So tell us earlier.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, we've been talking for 30 minutes. I don't know if we want to keep going. Like,
It
Yeah.
goes so fast.
yeah, I know.
Wow, that was quick.
Yeah. Is there any social media you want to plug? Anything you should want to plug? Just go for it. It's all
Not
you.
really.
Okay.
Well, then name your company, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Power Physical Therapy. You can find me on Ryan's website. Power PT 148 is my Instagram. That's it.
What are you trying to hit for the meet? Any plans?
PRs.
There you go.
PRs from what I had mentioned before.
Go
One,
visit our other
one
podcast
of those
and
will be
talk
nice.
about
Yeah.
That is something.
Yeah.
That's good. Like we talked about in the podcast, like your goal should be to constantly improve. So even if it's a 2.5 pound PR, like who cares?
I'll take it.
Yeah.
If you hit it in a competition,
Yeah.
you know, sounds good to me.
If it's bigger, great. But like PR is a PR. So
True.
Thank you so much for listening. To send in questions, DM me on Instagram at Syed_likes_stuff. Follow the gym on Instagram at Team GPT. For more information about the gym, visit GleasonPerformance.com and join the team. For online coaching, go to teamgpt.com.